Which tech suits do the fastest swimmers in the world wear when it comes to the biggest race of their lives? Last week in Singapore was the World Aquatics Championships, a brilliant, fast and deep competition showcasing all the worldwide best swimmers. And I decided to revisit every single final race so that I could count and tally up every single tech suit that was worn by every single finalist. And in this video, I'm going to nerd out and bring you the information I've learned and if we can take anything from the suits being worn. I've done this last year for the Paris Olympics, and I'm also going to compare in this video the trends from last year to this year and whatever changes there was. I think from this information, I can make a couple of recommendations, and later in the video, I'm going to say what I think objectively the best men's tech suit is and the best women's tech suit. And spoiler alert, there's not really much challenge in the case of the women's suit. In fact, from the data from the World Championships, every woman who's watching this video should probably go and buy one clear-cut tech suit. I personally can't say how good it is because I've never worn a woman's knee skin, but the data is very clear. But we're going to start on the men's side. And first of all, there was 9 different brands worn by men at this competition. We had Arena, Speedo, Mizuno, TYR, Jacket, Finis, Funky, Vadox and A3. And there were a couple of new brands that we hadn't seen last year in the Paris Olympics. In fact, last year at the Paris Olympics, we had not seen De Boer. We did see De Boer on the women's side at this meet via Tori Husk. We didn't see Vadox last year, and we did this year with Ludovico Viberti of Italy. And we didn't see A3 last year. And then we actually saw A3 with 2 different swimmers in finals here with AJ Pouch and Kat Burkov. Last year, though, at the Paris Olympics, we did have a couple of brands that we didn't see here. Aquasphere were used in the finals last year with their Aquasphere Blast. There was no more Aquasphere suits in the finals here. And while this year we did have a Funky Trunks on the man's side, last year we didn't, but we did have a Funkita on the women's side. They're the same brand, but Funkita is for women, Funky Trunks is for men's. So 9 brands were worn, and it was a slightly dominant display by Arena. Arena had 49 final wears from their range of tech suits, and that was split up over 4 different models: the Primo, the Core FX, the Carbon Air and the Carbon Glide. Speedo had 42 suit wears and Mizuno had 22. TYR were 4th place with 14 wears, and then it was kind of the best of the rest: Jacket with 3, Finis with 3, Funky, Vadox and A3 with just 1 suit wear. If we break it down into the particular models, the Pure Valor 2.0 was the most worn jammer. And now I think this is the case for this is because Speedo only have 2 models to choose from, whereas Arena have 4 different models to choose from. If Arena had less models, I think one Arena model might be more dominant, but because Arena have a greater option, a plethora of options for different suitable swimmers, then their models get slightly less saturated. Whereas because Speedo only have 2 options, everyone kind of leans to just one of them, which means we have a very dominant suit, which is the Pure Valor 2.0. And as I said, there was 42 different Speedo jammers worn in a final, and 36 of them was the Pure Valor 2.0, meaning just 6 of them was the Pure Intent 2.0. And in fact, that's not even the case. One of them was the Japanese Pure Glint, which is basically the Pure Valor. Only 5 of them were the Pure Intent. I think it means that the Pure Valor looks better than it is on the men's side because the Pure Intent is so bad. No Speedo athletes want to wear the Pure Intent. They all end up wearing the Pure Valor, and that's why it's the most worn suit. Between federations and individual sponsorships, Speedo covers a lot of athletes, and I would probably guess that almost every single one of them Speedo wearing swimmers is either sponsored or swimming for a federation sponsored by Speedo. So it might be someone like Jack Alexi, who is outright sponsored by Speedo himself, or it might be a German swimmer swimming for Germany who are sponsored by Speedo. So even athletes like Florian Wellbrock, who has famously always been wearing Arena, now he swims for Germany. Well, he's always swum for Germany, but now Germany is sponsored by Speedo. He and Lucas Martins, for example, are wearing Speedo suits in the pool. The second most worn suit is Arena's most popular Arena model with 26 people wearing it, and that's followed by the Air Squared worn by 15 swimmers. I would say the Air Squared is the Arena equivalent of the Pure Valor. The next most worn suit is from a completely different brand altogether. It's Mizuno, it's the GX Sonic 6NV, and it was worn by a staggering 14 people. The craziest thing about the Mizuno option is probably not worn by sponsored athletes. The Mizuno suits are probably worn by athletes who are deciding to go out their way and buy Mizuno suits. And as I said, there was 22 Mizuno suits worn, 14 of them with a flagship GX Sonic 6 NV. This is my personal favorite suit. It's the suit that when it comes to my taper meets, or any meet for that matter, I want to be wearing. And I've got a couple of these in brand new, in the new teal colorway, that I'm saving up for my taper meet at the end of October, Masters Nationals. And now, these are pretty hard to come by. You're probably thinking, well, Sonny, how did you manage to buy this Mizuno suit? And that's when I'm going to talk to you about today's channel sponsor, Bai, because I bought both pairs of my Mizuno and the two previous pairs I have in the black and red and in their dark blue colorway. I've bought them all from Bai. Now, what is Bai? Bai is a Japanese drop shipping service that basically means they purchase anything from Japan for you, get it shipped to their warehouse, and then ship it on to you wherever you are in the world. And I get so many people ask me, oh, I'm in Turkey, can I use Bai? Yes, you can. I'm in Argentina, can I use Bai? Absolutely. Bai will ship to every single location in the world, every single country. They have a range of couriers they use. They can use FedEx, DHL, your local shipping like Parcel Force or EMS, and it's super efficient. They will buy the suit or any Japanese product for you with barely any fees, and then of course you're gonna have to pay their fee, to ship the suit to you. It is a brilliant service, and if you use the link in my description, you'll save 10% off your first purchase of Bai. And the even greater thing is this suit, the Mizuno GX Sonic 6 NV, the suit that was used by 14 swimmers in a World Championship final. It's got a retail price of about £180 or $200. So you use 10% to save off that, you're getting this suit for about £160 plus shipping. What an absolute bargain. Anyhow, let's get back to the data. The GX Sonic 6 NV was followed by the Venzo with 9 uses, Carbon Glide, Intent, Evicta, all with 5 uses, and then all the other suits kind of had 3 or 4 uses. And I should mention that all the data I've compiled is available for you to get. You can go and view my spreadsheet in the description. My Google Sheet is there for you to have a look, and you know, I've basically got every single final with who wore what. What we're going to do now with the men's data is we're going to compare the men's data from last year at the Olympics. So at the Olympics last year, 45 men wore an arena suit, now 49. I think that additional 4 swimmers is because the Olympics doesn't have 50 individual events, so there's naturally going to be a few more suits. And it was the same on the Speedo, 38 in 24 to 42 uses in 25, 4 additional swims, again, probably because of the 50 additional events. Mizuno, however, had the biggest growth of all brands. Well, tied biggest growth. There was 14 men wearing Mizuno last year and 22 this year. Now, there's 2 massive reasons for that. One, I think it's just got growth because more people are trying Mizuno and wanting to wear Mizuno and even leaving sponsorships to wear Mizuno. The second is because Mizuno is the best for sprinting. The Mizuno GX Sonic 6 NV that I just showed you is the best sprint suit. And because we have the addition of the 50 strokes in the World Championships, more swimmers are going to use the Mizuno suits because they're better for the sprint event, such as Maxime Grousset, who won the men's 50 butterfly and 100 butterfly wearing that very suit. TYR also had a growth of 8 suits. They went from 16 and 24 to 14 in this year. And because of the smaller starting point, these growths are much more impressive. Like there was a 10% growth from Arena from 45 to 49, but there was over 100% growth from TYR with 6 to 14. Now, the reason that I think there was such a big growth in TYR suits is because all Russian Federation swimmers were provided TYR suits by the Russian Federation. So someone like Klement Kolesnikov wore a TYR suit for the first time ever, and that was because it was just really easy for him to get one. And most of these TYR athletes were the Russian swimmers plus Bobby Fink. While the Speedo Pure Valor 2.0 was the most worn jammer of all suits in the World's Finals last week, the 2 suits that I think we can take from this data to recommend would be the 2 in my hands right now. The first being that Mizuno GX Sonic 6 NV, and this is the recommendation for sprint suits. This was absolutely rampant in all the 50 meter and 100 meter events, and most notably it was worn by swimmers who are not sponsored by Mizuno. And I would even go as far as to guess that the swimmers wearing this suit are buying them out of their own pocket, even if they're at a World Championship level winning level, because it's so hard to get hold of these suits. The second data-driven suit I think we can determine that you should maybe check out is the Mizuno Neo SL. And the reason I say this is because it's a discontinued model and we're still seeing it in so many finals. This was worn by Shane Cassis to go in a ridiculous 154 in the 2IM. It was worn by Luke Hobson to come second in the 200 freestyle. And it was worn by multiple other swimmers at this meet, even though it's a discontinued model. Because it's a discontinued model, I don't think, again, Mizuno have any in stock to be shipping to people. That means people are going out their way to source one of these because they want to wear it because they love it so much. And I think this suit is like the perfect suit for anyone who likes the Pure Valor. It's basically a thin, papery, light suit, but still with some taping on the back of the legs. This means it's like a Pure Valor on steroids. And now we get to the women's suits. And there was one model in particular that clearly dominated the usage from the women at the World Championship, especially those in the final, because in every race I watched, it was being worn by at least 50% of every swimmer. In fact, more than 50% in most cases. And now let's go through the numbers. Speedo suits were worn by 87 women finalists. And second was Arena at 33. Basically, with a third of the market share of Speedo. And then it just dropped again. TYR had 9 wears, De Boer 2, Jacket 2, Finish 1 and A3 1. And then when we look at the models in particular, the Pure Valor 2.0 was worn by 78 women finalists. And second was the Carbon Air Squared that was worn by 10. No one else even got double digits. The Primo had 9 wears, the Carbon Glide 8, the Pure Intent 2.0 7, a Victor 6, Venzo 4, Aquaforce MF 4, and the rest are just a couple each. 78 to 10. That was the dominance of the Pure Valor 2.0. And as I alluded to earlier, if you're a woman watching this video, my recommendation is if you need a new tech suit, you probably should go and buy the Speedo Pure Valor 2.0 because there is obviously a reason that everyone loves it. In fact, with just the medalists, Speedo was worn by 33 medalists to 11 from Arena. And by model, the Pure Valor 2.0 was worn by 29 of the medalists at this meet. There was only 52 medals. So out of 52 medals, 29 were wearing a Speedo Pure Valor. That's over 50% of medalists and finalists at the World Championships wearing just one suit. On top of that, in a lot of finals, the swimmers who were wearing suits that were not the Pure Valor 2.0 were kind of the equivalent suit from their brand. So they were wearing an Arena Carbon Air Squared, another thin, papery, light suit like the Pure Valor 2.0, or TYR's a Victor, which, to be completely honest, outside of the cut, the fabric is very, very similar. There was also less unique suits on the women's side, 14 unique women's suits compared to 11 last year at the Olympics, but compared to 18 on the men's side. And when we look at the data in comparison to last year, all it's done is extremified Speedo's dominance over the women market. Last year at the Olympics, there were 30 swimmers wearing Arena suits, but 33 this year, so a 10% increase. That being said, Speedo last year had 64 knee skins being worn in finals, and this year, 87, a 25% increase over a dominant market share. That's just mad to me. One other interesting point is that 0 women for the last 2 major meets have worn a Mizuno tech suit, even though we're seeing a steady growth in men wearing the Mizuno suits. And this is something that I've always seen, and even with swimmers I've coached, the men's suits are the best, but the women's suits aren't massively loved. And I've even had a few of the swimmers I coached in the past try these suits out, and most of them don't love the women's knee skin. So I'm happy to recommend Mizuno to every single one of you watching out there if you're a guy, but if you're a woman, I recommend the Pure Valor because, well, there's clearly a reason why everyone's choosing to use it. There was a noticeable drop in women wearing TYR suits, and the same goes for Finish. But we did have an increase from 0 women wearing jacket suits to, well, 2 finalists, which was the same women. And that was the only suit I wasn't completely sure about because it didn't have a brand, but it was an all black suit. And I think the seams match up with Jacket's J Comp, which is actually a suit I've got in the men's jammer and will be bringing a review of to you shortly. When all said and done, I think that Arena and Speedo probably have a fairly equal amount of sponsorships at this high level between federations and individual athletes, and that's why the split between who uses how many suits on the men's side is very equal. But regardless of sponsorships, Speedo have such a hold over the women's knee skin, and that's because from every source that I have who wears women's suits, I've heard that the women's Pure Valor 2.0 knee skin is the comfiest suit that also has great performance, and that's why women gravitate so easily towards it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as I said, if you want to actually see the information and go through every single suit that was worn by every single finalist, it's all on the spreadsheet in this description, as is a 10% discount code off your first purchase from Buy. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Let me know your favorite suit in the comments, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.